interesting with you, because you really wasted no time sort of starting to record and all that stuff, because your first single you came out with when you were 12,
Right.
which was My Mother Was a Space Cadet.
Yep.
And you mentioned Van Halen. It was produced by Eddie, and I think it's so interesting because Eddie was a huge mentor for you. And I'm just wondering, like, how does 12-year-old Dweezil start hanging out with Eddie Van Halen?
I don't know really exactly how all of it came together. I've come to learn some details more recently, like within the last 5 years, that I never really knew. But essentially, what I've been able to put together was that I was home, the phone rang, and it was a guy saying it was Eddie Van Halen. My mom answered the phone. He was trying to talk to my dad. My mom said, "Get on the other line," because back then, you could have one phone in the kitchen and another phone in the other room. You could listen on either end. I had no idea what I was listening for. I was like, well, maybe I could tell if it's him, but I'd never seen him in an interview. I'd never heard his voice in an interview. We didn't have MTV or anything like that at that point, because this was 1981, 82, somewhere right around there. And anyway, he ended up talking to my dad, and he came to the house about 20 minutes later. But how he got the number, it turns out that Steve Vai, who was in my dad's band, had gone to see Edward play at the Roxy with Alan Holdsworth the night before, and ended up somehow giving him his number, and it mentioned that he was working with my dad. And Edward said, "Oh, I like Frank Zappa. I'd like to talk to him." And somehow that was a connection so that Edward could eventually get in touch with my dad, but he ended up calling Steve. Steve wasn't home. His roommate gave Edward my dad's phone number, which Steve then got really concerned that he was going to get in trouble because my dad's phone number was given out without permission. And then, as it all turned out, Edward called, came over, and then my dad called Steve. Steve came over. So the first meeting was Edward came to the house. He had a guitar that was later to be known as a Kramer, but he had a piece of black tape over the headstock. And he walked in. He started playing things I asked him to play. Steve got there. This guitar got passed around between the four of us. And it was like 3 hours of just asking guitar questions and seeing how he played. And after that, a few weeks or a few months later, it was relatively fast, we ended up doing My Mother's a Space Cadet. But I had nothing to do with arranging that. I didn't say, "Hey, could you produce my record?" or anything like that. It was just one of these things where it was like, "Hey, next weekend, you guys are going to record this song, and Edward's going to come by." And it was that kind of thing. But it was super crazy exciting, but I had no idea how any of that part of it happened. And also the same for when he came to my school. We were doing a show at my school and we were playing Running with the Devil. He came to the sound check and my guitar wouldn't stay in tune. So he left, went home, got a different guitar, came back to the sound check, gave me that guitar to play. And then I ended up being gifted that guitar. I called him the next day and said, "Thanks so much." And he said, "Oh, no, you can keep it." So it was a crazy, crazy way to start off my experience with really getting into guitar. And as it all boiled down, being able to see different players play up close and see exactly what they do, that really changed my ability to learn how to do things, because it was an epiphany to see, oh, he puts his fingers here. Oh, he uses open strings. He picks like this. And I could see that stuff and see up close, and it kind of just was burned into my memory at that point. And I could do the same with Steve Vai or my dad watching them play. So at 12 years old, with no YouTube or any of that kind of stuff, I had an image in my mind of what the technical requirement was to be able to play certain things. I could see how your fingers are supposed to move. And then it just became, can I find those notes and get my fingers to go there? And that was really how I figured out how to play guitar.
Yeah, what an amazing, like, just to be in the same room with Frank Zappa, Eddie Van Halen, and Steve Vai. Like that is an education right there for sure.
For sure, yeah.